The phone vibrated against the marble countertop like an angry wasp. Mother Thompson's name flashed across the screen, and my stomach knotted before I even picked up. 3 months of wedding planning had taught me exactly what that particular ringtone meant. Another battle was about to begin. "Selena, darling," her voice dripped honey-coated venom. "I've just heard the most disturbing news from the country club. You're planning to have the ceremony in your mother's backyard?" I traced my finger along the counter's edge, counting to 3 before responding. "Yes, Evelyn, it's intimate, meaningful, and absolutely unacceptable." The honey vanished. The Thompsons have hosted every wedding at St. Augustine's Cathedral for 4 generations. 4 generations, Selena. Do you understand what you're throwing away? My name is Selena, and I was about to become the family disappointment. Again, Michael agrees with me about keeping things simple, I said, though my voice wavered slightly. The truth was, Michael hadn't exactly agreed. He just stopped arguing about it. "Simple?" She spat the word like spoiled milk. "Is that what you call embarrassing our entire social circle? Richard is on the hospital board. I chair 3 charity committees. What will people think?" The familiar heat crept up my neck. "They might think we're focused on what matters instead of what matters is family tradition. What matters is respect." Her voice rose sharply. "But I suppose you wouldn't understand that, coming from, well." The unfinished sentence hung between us like a poisoned arrow. Coming from what, Evelyn? A middle-class family? A public school education? A mother who worked as a librarian instead of organizing charity galas? "I need to go," I managed, my fingers white-knuckled around the phone. "Michael will be home soon. Just remember, darling, you're not just marrying Michael. You're marrying into the Thompson name, a name that means something in this city." The call ended, but I stood frozen, letting the phone's edge dig into my palm. Through the kitchen window, I could see Mom's backyard, the massive oak tree where Michael had proposed, the garden beds we'd spent weekends perfecting. It was beautiful, meaningful, and according to my future mother-in-law, completely worthless. I heard the front door open, followed by Michael's familiar footsteps. "Hey, babe, you okay? You look—" "Your mother called." The words came out sharper than intended. His shoulders tensed. "About the wedding?" "About how I'm destroying 4 generations of Thompson tradition." I turned to face him. "About how my background isn't good enough for your family name." She didn't mean, "Don't." I held up my hand. "Don't defend her. Not this time." Michael ran his fingers through his hair. His tell when he's stressed. "What do you want me to do? They're my parents. I want you to stand up to them, to tell them that our wedding is about us, not about their social status or their country club friends or their precious family name." He stayed silent, and in that silence, something shifted, something final. I walked to the window, pressing my forehead against the cool glass. Behind me, Michael shuffled uncomfortably, caught between loyalty to his parents and love for me. But I wasn't watching him. I was watching the oak tree, remembering his proposal, remembering how simple everything had seemed then. "I need some air," I said finally, grabbing my keys. "Don't wait up." As I drove away, my phone buzzed again. Evelyn. I ignored it, but her words echoed in my head. The Thompson name means something in this city. Fine. If she wanted to play games with names and reputations, I knew exactly who to call. It was time Jennifer Collins and her father, the senator, got involved in this little family drama. Sometimes the best revenge isn't served cold. It's served with a perfectly polite smile and a guest list that would make Evelyn Thompson choke on her morning mimosa. I found myself at Mom's house well past midnight, sitting at her worn kitchen table while she brewed chamomile tea. The familiar scent of lavender dish soap and old cookbooks wrapped around me like a comfort blanket, but even that couldn't ease the tension in my shoulders. "You're going to wear a groove in that table," Mom said, watching me trace the same old water ring for the 100th time. Michael texted 8 times on the drive here. I pushed my phone face down. He says I'm being unreasonable. Mom set 2 steaming mugs down and settled across from me. "And what does Selena say?" "Selena says she's tired of being the family disappointment." The words came out bitter. "Did you know Evelyn keeps a photo album of all the Thompson wedding ceremonies? 4 generations at St. Augustine's Cathedral. 4 perfect society page weddings. And now her son wants to get married in my backyard." Mom's eyes crinkled. How terribly déclassé. "It's not funny, Mom." "No, it's not. But neither is letting that woman make you doubt yourself." She reached across the table, her hand covering mine. "You remember Jennifer's wedding? The 3-ring circus at the plaza?" I snorted. How could I forget? "And where is Jennifer now?" "Divorced, living in Los Angeles." I paused, seeing where she was going with this. "But that's different. This isn't about the wedding, not really. It's about respect, about being good enough." The back door creaked, making us both jump. Michael stood there, looking rumpled and exhausted. "I knocked," he said quietly. "But I heard voices." Mom stood, gathering her tea. "I'll leave you two to talk." "Linda, please stay," Michael said quickly. "I actually need both of you to hear this." Something in his tone made my stomach clench. "My parents want to host an engagement dinner next weekend," he continued. "At the country club. They've already invited everyone." "Everyone?" The word felt like glass in my mouth. "The hospital board, their charity committee friends, the mayor's wife." He wouldn't meet my eyes. "They say it's tradition." "Of course they do." I pushed back from the table, the chair legs scraping against linoleum. "And let me guess, you told them yes without asking me first." "Selena?" "No, Michael. This is exactly what they always do. They bulldoze right over what we want, what we planned, and you just let them. They're trying to welcome you into the family." "By what? Parading me around like some circus act? Come see the middle-class girl who dared to marry a Thompson?" Mom cleared her throat. "Michael, would you like some tea?" We both turned to stare at her. She met our looks calmly, already pulling down another mug. "Chamomile," she continued. "Good for frayed nerves. And while you drink it, maybe you can both remember that marriage isn't about winning battles. It's about choosing which hills to die on." Michael sank into a chair, accepting the mug. "I love you, Selena. You know that. But they're my parents. And sometimes keeping the peace is worth what?" I cut in. "Worth watching your wife be humiliated? Worth letting your mother treat my family like we're beneath her? That's not fair. Neither is making me choose between my self-respect and your family's traditions." The silence stretched between us, broken only by the quiet tick of Mom's ancient wall clock. Finally, Michael set down his untouched tea. "The dinner's next Saturday at 7, he said softly. "Wear something appropriate." He left the same way he came, through the back door, leaving behind the scent of his cologne and the weight of his capitulation. Mom watched me carefully. "What are you thinking?" I picked up my phone, scrolling through contacts until I found the number I needed. "I'm thinking it's time to call Jennifer, see if she and her father want to attend a little engagement dinner." "Selena," Mom's voice held a warning. "Revenge might feel good in the moment, but this isn't about revenge anymore, Mom." I met her gaze steadily. "This is about showing Evelyn Thompson that her social circle isn't the only one that matters in this city." The phone rang once, twice. Then Jennifer's familiar voice filled the line. "Selena, do you know what time it is?" "Hey, Jen, Remember how you always said you owed me one? Time to collect. The email from St. Augustine's Cathedral arrived 3 days before the engagement dinner. I almost deleted it, assuming it was a generic newsletter, until I saw the subject line: Thompson Carter Wedding Confirmation. My coffee mug slipped from my fingers, shattering against the kitchen floor. "Honey?" Michael called from upstairs. "Everything okay?" I stared at my screen, reading and rereading the confirmation details. Deposit paid, date secured, all arranged under the names Evelyn and Richard Thompson. "Selena, did you know?" My voice came out eerily calm as Michael appeared in the doorway. "About the cathedral?" He froze, color draining from his face. "I can explain. They booked it behind our backs." I turned the laptop toward him. "And you knew." "Mom called yesterday. She said they were just holding the date in case." "In case what?" The calm shattered. "In case I came to my senses, in case you finally convinced me to be the proper Thompson bride they want." "They put down a non-refundable deposit." "Of course they did." I laughed, a sharp, ugly sound. "Because money is how they control everything. Everyone." Michael stepped carefully around the broken mug, reaching for me. "Baby, please, they're trying to help." "Stop." I backed away. "Just stop defending them. For once in your life, Michael, see what they're really doing. What they're doing is giving us a beautiful wedding." "No. What they're doing is making sure everyone knows that the Thompsons still control everything. That they can buy whatever they want, including their son's spine." The words hung between us like shrapnel. Michael's face hardened. "That's not fair. Neither is this." I grabbed my phone, dialing Jennifer's number. "But I'm done playing fair." "Don't." Michael reached for the phone. "Whatever you're planning," Jennifer answered on the second ring. "Perfect timing. Dad just confirmed he can make Saturday's dinner. He's bringing the governor, too. They're both in town for that education bill vote." Michael's eyes widened. "Wonderful," I said, holding his gaze. "Evelyn will be thrilled. She loves a full guest list." After hanging up, I turned back to my laptop, forwarding the cathedral email to my mother-in-law with 2 words. "Explain this." "The governor?" Michael's voice cracked. "Selena, what are you doing?" "Giving your mother exactly what she wants. A society event worth talking about." I started gathering my purse and keys, though probably not the way she imagined. "Where are you going?" "To buy a new dress for Saturday. Something appropriate." The word tasted like acid. "Your mother's always saying I need to dress more like a Thompson." "Don't do this." He caught my arm. "Please, we can talk to them together. Explain." "Explain what? That I'm not good enough for their precious cathedral? That your mother needs to control every aspect of our lives?" I pulled away. I tried talking. I tried compromising. Now I'm trying something else. "Revenge won't fix this." "No," I agreed, "but it might teach them something about respect." My phone buzzed. Evelyn calling, right on cue. I let it ring. "You know what the worst part is?" I turned at the door. "I actually believed you when you said you loved me more than your family's expectations. Guess we were both wrong about something." I left him standing there, surrounded by broken ceramic and broken promises. In my car, I finally checked Evelyn's voicemail. "Selena, darling." Her voice trembled with barely controlled rage. "We simply must discuss this misunderstanding about the cathedral and this guest list I'm hearing about. Call me immediately." I deleted the message and dialed Jennifer instead. "Hey," I said when she answered. "Remember that red Valentino dress you wore to the Emmys last year? Any chance I could borrow it for Saturday?" "The one that made page 6? It's yours." She paused. "Are you sure about this? Mixing your in-laws with my father's political circle?" "Oh, I'm sure. I pulled into the parking lot of the same country club where the engagement dinner would be held. It's time the Thompsons learned they're not the only ones who know how to play social games. Through the windshield, I could see Evelyn's Mercedes already parked out front. Perfect. Time for a little preview of Saturday's entertainment. The country club's marble floors echoed with each step as I followed the maitre d' toward the private dining room. Through the doorway, I caught a glimpse of Evelyn's perfectly coiffed hair, her back straight as a ruler as she arranged place cards with military precision. I cleared my throat. Planning my engagement dinner without me? She startled, nearly dropping the card in her hand. Selena, I didn't expect. Clearly. I picked up one of the cards. Dr. and Mrs. Harrison Whitmore. Funny, I don't remember adding them to our guest list. Darling, please. Evelyn's smile stretched tight. Harrison is the chief of surgery. He's practically family. Like the governor? The color drained from her face. What? Oh, didn't Michael tell you? Jennifer Collins and her father are coming. The governor, too. I traced the gold lettering on the place card. I should probably help you rearrange these. Protocol can be so tricky with elected officials. You had no right. Like you had no right to book St. Augustine's? The door opened behind us, and Richard Thompson strode in, followed by Michael. They both froze, reading the tension in the room. What's going on? Richard demanded. Ask your wife about the cathedral. I turned to Michael. Or your son. Richard's expression darkened. Evelyn? It's tradition, she snapped, and I won't let some public school librarian's daughter turn our family's legacy into a backyard barbecue. The words hung in the air like smoke. Michael stepped forward, but I held up my hand. You know what's interesting about librarians? My voice remained steady. They teach you how to research, how to find information. I pulled out my phone, scrolling through emails. Like the fact that St. Augustine's Cathedral was built with Collins family money. Senator Collins's great-grandfather donated the land. Evelyn's perfectly manicured nails dug into the tablecloth. Selena? Michael's voice cracked. Please don't do this. Do what? Play by Thompson rules? I met his gaze. Because that's what this is, isn't it? A game of influence and control. This isn't a game, Richard growled. This is about respect. Exactly. I placed Jennifer's place card at the head of the table. So let's talk about respect. My phone buzzed. A text from Mom. Need to see you. Important. Excuse me, I said, gathering my purse. I have another appointment, but don't worry about the seating arrangement, Evelyn. Jennifer's people will handle it. They're used to managing high-profile events. I made it halfway to Mom's house before the shaking started. Pull yourself together, I thought, gripping the steering wheel tighter. You wanted this. Mom was waiting on the porch, holding a worn leather photo album I'd never seen before. Sit, she said when I approached. There's something you need to know about the Thompsons. She opened the album to reveal a yellowed newspaper clipping. The headline read, Local Scandal, Thompson-Carter Wedding Called Off. Mom? Before I married your father, she said quietly, I was engaged to Richard Thompson. The world tilted sideways. What? Evelyn was the daughter of Richard's father's business partner. When she showed interest, Mom's fingers traced the headline. Well, some traditions are harder to break than others. Why didn't you tell me? Because you loved Michael. Because I thought maybe things had changed. She closed the album. But watching history repeat itself? My phone buzzed again. Michael calling. I ignored it. The engagement dinner, Mom continued. The cathedral. It's not about you, Selena. It's about Evelyn making sure everyone knows she won. Again. I stared at the album, at 30 years of buried history suddenly rising to the surface. So what do I do? That depends. Mom's eyes met mine. Are you fighting for your wedding, or are you fighting to prove something to Evelyn? Because only one of those battles is worth winning. The phone buzzed a third time. This time, it was Jennifer. The governor confirmed, her text read. Dad's bringing reporters from the society pages. Evelyn Thompson won't know what hit her. I looked at Mom, then back at the message, feeling the weight of 3 generations of Thompson Carter history pressing down on my shoulders. I need to make a call, I said finally, reaching for my phone. But for the first time since this all began, I wasn't sure who I was really fighting anymore. Jennifer's Valentino dress hung in my closet like a red flag, taunting me. 2 hours until the engagement dinner, and my phone wouldn't stop buzzing with updates. The governor's security detail needed parking arrangements. Senator Collins's office wanted to confirm menu restrictions. Michael had left 8 voicemails I couldn't bring myself to hear. The doorbell rang. I opened it to find Richard Thompson standing there, looking older than I'd ever seen him. May I come in? I stepped aside, watching him survey my modest living room with new eyes. Now I understood his careful distance all these years, the way he'd never quite looked at me directly. Linda told you? It wasn't a question. About you and her? Yes. I crossed my arms. 30 years of Thompson traditions suddenly make a lot more sense. It wasn't like that. He ran a hand through his silver hair. Your mother wasn't good enough? Like mother, like daughter, right? You're nothing like Linda. His voice cracked. She walked away. You're fighting back. The leather album Mom had shown me sat on my coffee table. Richard picked it up, thumbing through pages until he found the newspaper clipping. Evelyn was pregnant, he said quietly. That's why, well, some choices aren't really choices at all. My carefully constructed anger wavered. Why are you telling me this? Because you need to understand what you're really fighting against. He set down the album. It's not about the cathedral or the country club. It's about fear. Fear of losing control, of change. He met my eyes. Evelyn's terrified of ending up like her mother, abandoned for someone younger, someone more genuine. The irony wasn't lost on me. So she made sure to strike first with Linda, and now she's doing it again with you. He pulled an envelope from his jacket. These are the cathedral receipts, the deposit, everything. I stared at the envelope. Why? Because I made the wrong choice 30 years ago. Because my son loves you the way I loved Linda. He placed the envelope on the table. And because sometimes tradition needs to break before it can change. My phone buzzed again. Jennifer, confirming the society photographers were in position. The dinner starts in 2 hours, I said. I know. Richard headed for the door, then paused. Whatever you decide, Selena, make sure you're fighting for the right reasons. Revenge might feel good tonight, but you'll have to live with the consequences tomorrow. After he left, I sat staring at the red dress, the envelope, my buzzing phone. Mom's words echoed. Are you fighting for your wedding, or are you fighting to prove something? I picked up my phone, dialing Michael's number. Selena? He answered on the first ring. Thank God, I've been trying to. Meet me at the oak tree. My voice shook. Where you proposed, now. The dinner's in 2 hours. Mom's already. Please, Michael, just meet me there. I grabbed my keys, leaving the Valentino dress hanging in the closet. As I drove to Mom's house, to our oak tree, my phone exploded with messages. Jennifer asking about the photographers. Evelyn demanding confirmation about place settings. The governor's office requesting arrival protocols. I turned off my phone. The sun was setting when I pulled up, casting long shadows across Mom's backyard. Michael stood under the oak tree, still in his work clothes, looking lost. I found out why your father hates my mother, I said, walking toward him, and why your mother hates me. Selena? But that's not why I asked you here. I took his hands. I need to know something, and I need the truth. Are you marrying me because you love me, or because I'm your rebellion against Thompson traditions? His fingers tightened around mine. What? Because in 2 hours, I can destroy your mother's social standing. I can make headlines that'll haunt your family for years. I felt tears building. Or we can get in your car right now, drive to the country club, and play our parts in another perfect Thompson wedding. But I need to know what we're really fighting for. The oak tree creaked above us, branches swaying in the evening breeze. Everything hinged on his next words. My revenge, our future, 3 generations of Thompson Carter history. Michael opened his mouth to answer, and I held my breath. Michael's silence stretched like a shadow across Mom's backyard. Finally, he pulled his hands from mine and walked to the oak tree, pressing his palm against its rough bark. I got my first job offer in Seattle, he said quietly. Right after college, 6 figures, corner office, everything I'd worked for. I stayed rooted in place, unsure where this was going. Mom said it would kill Dad if I left. The family business, the Thompson legacy. He turned back to me. So I stayed, like I always stay. Michael? But you? His laugh was hollow. You make me wish I'd gotten on that plane. My phone buzzed in my pocket, probably Jennifer, wondering where I was. The engagement dinner would start in less than an hour. That's not an answer, I said. Yes, it is. He stepped closer. I love you because you're everything they're afraid of, everything I wish I could be. The words hit like a slap. So I am your rebellion. No, you're my wake-up call. He pulled out his own phone, scrolling through messages. Look at this. Mom sent 14 texts about the governor's seating arrangement. Dad's called 3 times about the cathedral deposit. They're trying to control us. And you're trying to destroy them. His voice hardened. Tell me, what's the difference? Before I could answer, headlights swept across the yard. A sleek black car pulled up, and Jennifer stepped out, wearing a designer suit that probably cost more than my monthly salary. There you are. She strode toward us, phone in hand. The photographers are in position. The governor's 2 minutes out, and your mother-in-law is having a meltdown about the place cards. This is going to be epic. Michael stared at her, then at me. You planned all this? I had help? I gestured to Jennifer, who was still scrolling through messages. Oh, and Dad convinced the Times to send their society columnist. Jennifer added, tomorrow's headline, Thompson family scandal, history repeats, pure gold. History repeats? Michael's voice cracked. What does that mean? I opened my mouth, but no words came. How could I explain about his father and my mother? About 30 years of buried secrets and repeated patterns? Selena? Jennifer prompted. We need to go. Everyone's waiting. Michael pulled out his car keys. You know what? Let them wait. What are you doing? Making a choice. He started walking toward his car. I'm done being the dutiful Thompson son, done watching everyone I love tear each other apart over some twisted idea of family honor. Michael, wait. You want revenge on my mother? Fine. Go to that dinner. Let Jennifer and her father and their reporters destroy 30 years of my family's reputation. He yanked open his car door. But don't expect me to stand there and watch. Jennifer touched my arm. The governor's already at the club. If we leave now... Stop. I shrugged her off. Just stop. The oak tree loomed above us, witness to another Thompson Carter crossroads. In my pocket, the cathedral receipts Richard had given me felt like they were burning a hole. What are you doing? Jennifer demanded as I pulled out my phone. Choosing my battle. I dialed Senator Collins' office, hands shaking. This is Selena Thompson. I need to cancel the governor's appearance tonight. Family emergency. Are you insane? Jennifer grabbed for my phone. Do you know how many strings Dad pulled? I know exactly what strings you pulled. I stepped back, and I'm done dancing on them. Michael stood by his car, watching, waiting. You're making a mistake, Jennifer said. They'll never respect you now. I looked at the oak tree, remembering Mom's words about battles worth winning, remembering Richard's warning about living with consequences. Maybe, I said, but at least I'll respect myself. I walked toward Michael's car, leaving Jennifer standing in my mother's backyard, surrounded by 30 years of Thompson Carter history and a revenge plot that suddenly felt as hollow as Evelyn's social pretenses. Where are we going? Michael asked as I slid into the passenger seat. I don't know. I pulled out my phone one last time, typing a message to Evelyn. The engagement dinner is canceled, but we need to talk about Linda, about Richard, about everything. But I know where we're not going, I added as Michael started the engine. And sometimes that's enough. Michael parked in front of the Thompson estate at midnight. The house loomed dark except for the study windows, where warm light spilled across manicured lawns. Of course Evelyn would be waiting. You don't have to do this, Michael said. Yes, I do. I clutched the leather album from Mom in one hand, the cathedral receipts in the other. Some stories need to end differently. The front door opened before we reached it. Evelyn stood in her designer dress, makeup perfect despite the hour. Behind her, Richard sat in his leather chair, looking smaller than I remembered. The governor sends his regrets, I said, stepping inside, along with half of the hospital board, I imagine. Evelyn's smile was brittle. Quite the spectacle you arranged. Learned from the best. I placed the album on Richard's desk, though probably not as spectacular as 30 years ago. The color drained from Evelyn's face. Richard stood abruptly. That's enough. No, it's not. I opened the album to the newspaper clipping. Tell him, Evelyn. Tell Michael how you made sure Richard chose the right Carter woman. Michael picked up the article, his hands shaking. Dad, what is this? Ancient history, Evelyn snapped. Like the cathedral deposit? I pulled out the receipts. Or did you think forcing history to repeat itself would somehow make it right? You have no idea. I know exactly what I'm talking about. My voice stayed steady, the same way you knew exactly what you were doing when you got pregnant right after Richard proposed to my mother. The silence that followed was deafening. Michael stared at his father, who couldn't meet his eyes. Is it true? Michael's voice cracked. It was complicated, Richard started. It was necessary, Evelyn cut in. The Thompsons needed control. I stepped closer, just like now, but here's what's going to happen instead. I pulled an envelope from my purse, the one Jennifer had given me, with the photos and story ready for tomorrow's papers. Tomorrow, there's either going to be a scandal in the society pages about Thompson family history, or there's going to be nothing at all. I set the envelope down. Your choice. You're blackmailing us? Evelyn's voice rose. I'm offering you what you never gave my mother. A choice. Richard picked up the envelope with trembling fingers. What do you want? The wedding happens in Mom's backyard. No cathedral, no society circus. I met Evelyn's gaze. And you both show up with genuine smiles and welcome me to the family. Really welcome me. Or, Evelyn challenged, or tomorrow everyone learns how the perfect Thompson dynasty was built on destroying my mother's happiness. I turned to Michael. Your call. Michael looked at his parents, then at the newspaper clipping, then at me. Something shifted in his expression. No, he said quietly. What? No deals, no threats. He took my hand. We're getting married in Linda's backyard because that's what we want. And if you can't accept that, he faced his parents, Then don't come at all. Evelyn sank into a chair, her perfect posture crumbling. Richard stared at the album, at 30 years of carefully maintained appearances. I loved her, he whispered. Linda, I really did. I know, I said softly. That's what makes it worse. Evelyn's hand found Richard's, squeezing tight. For the first time, I saw fear in her eyes, not of scandal or social ruin, but of history truly repeating itself. The backyard wedding stays, she said finally. But, she pulled out her checkbook, let us at least help make it beautiful, the way it should have been 30 years ago. She wrote a number that made my eyes widen, then held out the check. This isn't about buying forgiveness, she added quickly. It's about choosing a different ending. I looked at the check, then at Michael, then at the envelope of damaging photos. Revenge had brought me here, but something else would have to lead me out. Okay, I said, taking the check but leaving the envelope. Let's write a new story. Michael squeezed my hand as dawn began to break outside, painting the Thompson estate in new light. Sometimes the best revenge isn't about destroying the past. It's about building a different future. The oak tree in Mom's backyard wore strings of fairy lights, like stars caught in its branches. White chairs dotted the lawn, and mason jars filled with wildflowers lined the makeshift aisle. Simple, perfect, exactly what we'd wanted from the start. I watched from the kitchen window as Evelyn adjusted a flower arrangement, her designer dress collecting grass stains as she knelt in the dirt. Richard stood nearby, deep in conversation with Mom, their body language careful but no longer strained. Quite a transformation, Jennifer said behind me. She'd arrived early wearing a simple sundress instead of her usual red carpet attire. Though Dad's disappointed about missing his photo op, some stories are better left untold. I turned to face her. Thank you for understanding. She shrugged, but her eyes were kind. You know, I always envied how you stood your ground. Even back in school, you knew exactly who you were. Not exactly. I fingered the check in my pocket. Evelyn's peace offering, still uncashed. Sometimes you have to lose yourself to find out who you really are. Through the window, I watched Michael arrive, carrying boxes of champagne. He paused to kiss his mother's cheek, and Evelyn's surprise melted into a genuine smile. You're not going to tell me what happened that night at their house, are you? Jennifer asked. Some bridges are better rebuilt than burned. Mom appeared in the doorway, holding a small package wrapped in aged paper. Ready? I nodded, following her upstairs to her bedroom. She placed the package in my hands. I was going to wear this, she said softly, the day I almost became a Thompson. Inside was a delicate pearl hairpin, its silver tarnished but beautiful. Mom, the past doesn't have to poison the future. She tucked the pin into my hair. Sometimes it just shows us where to build stronger foundations. The ceremony passed in a blur of sunset light and gentle breezes. No society photographers, no political connections, just family learning to become family. When Michael kissed me under the oak tree, Evelyn was crying. Real tears this time, not the carefully manufactured ones I'd seen at countless charity events. At the reception, Richard clinked his glass for a toast. My stomach tightened, remembering all the Thompson traditions we'd broken. 30 years ago, he began, his voice wavering, I made a choice based on fear, on tradition, on other people's expectations. His eyes found Mom in the crowd, then moved to me. Today, my son chose love instead, and in doing so, he taught his old man that sometimes the best traditions are the ones we dare to break. Evelyn stood, taking his hand. To new beginnings, she added, and to the daughter we almost lost before we truly found her. Later, as fireflies replaced the setting sun, I found the uncashed check in my pocket. Michael watched as I tore it carefully down the middle. You sure? He asked. Some debts can't be paid with money. I scattered the pieces like confetti. And some shouldn't be paid at all. Mom and Evelyn sat together at a corner table, heads bent over the leather album, not erasing the past, but finally facing it. Richard watched them from a distance, his expression a complex mix of regret and relief. Think they'll be okay? Michael asked. I think they'll be better. I leaned into him, watching our families slowly become one. Sometimes revenge isn't about making someone pay. Sometimes it's about making them see. Jennifer caught my eye from across the yard and raised her glass in a silent toast. She understood now why I'd canceled her father's appearance, why I'd chosen this simple celebration over social warfare. Some victories aren't won through destruction. The oak tree swayed gently overhead, its lights twinkling like the stars emerging above. 30 years of Thompson Carter history whispered through its leaves, but the sound was different now. Not a reminder of what was lost, but a promise of what could be built. I felt the pearl pin in my hair, carrying both my mother's past and my future. Some battles are won not by fighting, but by finding the courage to lay down arms and build something new from the ashes of what might have been.